The ship landed on Vexaris 7 just as the twin suns began to set. Danny Cole looked out the window and saw a world that did not belong to humans. The sky was purple, the ground was red, and the creatures walking toward the landing pad were nothing like anything he had seen before. Danny was 32 years old. He came from a small town in Ohio where he worked construction. He built houses and fixed roads. He was not a soldier. He was not a scientist. He was just a man who had said yes when his government asked for a volunteer. The Galactic Coalition had sent Earth an invitation. For 3,000 years, they held something called the Proving Grounds. It was a test. Species from across the universe came to show their strength and their worth. The winners earned respect. The losers were forgotten. Humanity had never been invited before. They were too new, too weak, too small. But this year, the Coalition sent a message. They wanted a human to compete, not because they thought humans could win. They wanted to watch them fail. Danny knew this. Everyone knew this. But he went anyway. Ambassador Lisa Warren walked beside him as they left the ship. She was a tall woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had spent 20 years fighting for humanity to have a voice in the galaxy. This was supposed to be her victory. Instead, she watched as alien creatures pointed at Danny and laughed. The registration hall was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Danny could not see the top. Thousands of beings filled the space. Some had scales, some had claws, some had so many arms that Danny lost count, and all of them were looking at him. A creature with gray skin and yellow eyes stepped forward. He was at least 12 feet tall. His body was covered in scars that looked like they had been put there on purpose. Each scar was a mark of victory. Each scar meant someone had died. His name was Vorkath. They called him the Unbroken. Vorkath looked down at Danny the way a man might look at an insect. "This is what the humans sent?" Vorkath said. His voice was deep and rough like stones grinding together. "A worker? A builder of small things?" The aliens around them laughed. The sound filled the hall like thunder. Danny said nothing. He just stood there and let them laugh. Lisa stepped closer to him. "You can still leave," she whispered. "No one would blame you. This was a mistake." "No," Danny said. His voice was quiet but steady. "This is exactly where I need to be." The registration official was a thin creature with 6 eyes and too many fingers. It scanned Danny with a device that hummed and beeped. "Human male," the official announced. The words echoed through the hall. No natural weapons, no armor, no venom, no enhanced strength. Each word brought more laughter from the crowd. Physical classification: fragile. Danny signed his name on the registration form and walked toward the competitor quarters. He did not look back at the laughing aliens. He did not respond to their insults. He just walked. That night, Lisa found him on the observation deck. 3 moons hung in the purple sky. Danny stood at the window and watched them rise. "The Crassian," Lisa said. "Vorkath. He has killed 47 opponents in these games. His species conquered 6 star systems. Their bones are stronger than our strongest metals." "I know," Danny said. "Then you know you cannot beat him with strength." Danny turned to look at her. His face was calm. There was no fear in his eyes. There was no anger. There was only patience. "Do you know what makes humans different?" he asked. Lisa shook her head. "We are not the strongest creatures in the universe. We are not the fastest. We do not have claws or fangs or armor." Danny looked back at the moons. "But we are still here. Everything on our planet tried to kill us. The cold tried to freeze us. The heat tried to burn us. The animals tried to eat us. And we survived all of it." He paused for a moment. "We survived because we do not know how to give up." Lisa studied his face. She had met many brave people in her life. Soldiers, leaders, heroes. But there was something different about Danny Cole. He was not trying to be brave, he simply was. "The trials begin tomorrow," she said. "The first one is called the Gauntlet of Endurance. You will face challenges designed to break you." "Good," Danny said. "Let them try." The next morning, Danny stood in the arena with 200 other competitors. The stands were filled with 3 million spectators. Cameras floated in the air, sending the broadcast to countless worlds. Trillions of the Gauntlet of Endurance was simple to understand. Each competitor would walk a path. The path would try to break them. The last one standing would win. Danny stood alone in a white room. The walls hummed with strange technology. A machine voice spoke. Human body analyzed. Environment adjusting. The wall in front of him disappeared. A long path stretched into darkness. Danny could not see where it ended. He started walking. The first hour was easy. The ground was flat. The air was cool. Danny walked at a steady pace. He did not rush. He did not slow down. He just kept moving forward. In the second hour, the temperature began to rise. By the third hour, it was hot enough to cook meat. The ground burned through Danny's boots. His skin turned red. Each breath felt like swallowing fire. He kept walking. In the monitoring station, Lisa watched dozens of screens. Each screen showed a different competitor. One by one, they were falling. The Mordaki dropped out at hour 4. Their special skin could not handle the heat. The Thelians collapsed at hour 6. Their 4 arms could not help them when their muscles overheated. Ambassador Zenthi of the Kelvari stood next to Lisa. She had 8 eyes and skin the color of jade. She pointed at Danny's screen. "The human is still moving," Zenthi said. Her voice was filled with surprise. "How is this possible?" Lisa watched Danny on the screen. He had taken off his burned shirt and wrapped it around his head. His skin was covered in blisters. He was barely moving, but he was still on his feet. "Humans evolved as hunters," Lisa explained. "Not the kind that chase prey with speed, the kind that follow prey for days and days until the prey simply cannot run anymore. Our bodies were designed to keep going when other bodies stop." Danny did not know how many hours had passed. He did not think about time. He did not think about the heat. He thought about his father. Kevin Cole had worked in construction for 40 years. One day, he fell from a scaffold and broke his back. The doctors said he would never walk again. 6 months later, he was back at work. He walked with a limp for the rest of his life, but he never stopped working. Danny thought about his father's face. He thought about the way Kevin Cole would look at a problem and say, "Well, it ain't gonna fix itself." He kept walking. At hour 8, everything changed. The heat vanished. In 1 second, the path went from burning hot to freezing cold. Danny's blisters cracked open in the sudden change. Ice began to form on his skin. His wet clothes froze solid. Every step became agony. He kept walking. In the monitoring station, the alien observers watched with growing unease. The Crassians were known for their endurance. Vorkath himself was legendary, but at hour 10, even Vorkath fell. The great warrior dropped to his knees in his chamber. His massive body could not maintain its temperature. He roared in frustration as the trial ended for him. "Impossible," Vorkath growled, watching Danny's screen. "His body should have failed hours ago. He has no adaptations, no enhancements. He is just flesh." But Danny was still walking. At hour 12, the ground turned to broken glass. Each step cut his feet. Blood marked his path behind him. He kept walking. At hour 14, the air became poison. Danny's lungs burned with every breath. He coughed and spat blood. He kept walking. At hour 15, there was no air at all. Danny's chest screamed for oxygen. His vision went dark at the edges. He kept walking. The Grand Arbiter watched from above. In 3,000 years, it had seen many competitors, strong ones, fast ones, deadly ones, but it had never seen anything like this. "The human should have died hours ago," Every reading said his body was failing. His heart was damaged. His lungs were damaged. His muscles were tearing themselves apart. But he would not stop. At hour 16, the arbiter ended the trial. Not because Danny had given up, because if the trial continued, the human would die. "The trial is complete," the arbiter announced to the silent arena. "The human has not yielded. First trial victory, the human." Danny collapsed the moment he crossed the finish line. His body finally gave up now that his mind allowed it. Medical teams rushed to his side. They had never seen so much damage in a being that was still alive. In the medical bay, coalition doctors worked for hours to repair the damage. They used technology far beyond anything on Earth. They healed burns and cuts and broken bones. They repaired organs that had been pushed past their limits. Lisa sat beside Danny's bed and watched him breathe. 3 million people watched you today, she said, even though he could not hear her. They are not laughing anymore. On the observation deck, Vorkath stood alone. He stared at his reflection in the dark window. For 47 fights, he had been the strongest. For 15 years, no one had matched him. He had believed that strength was everything. Now he watched the replay of a small human walking through fire and ice and poison and vacuum. Walking with a body that should have failed. Walking when every other species had fallen. Vorkath looked at his own hands. These hands had crushed warriors. These hands had bent metal. These hands had never known defeat. But today, a human had done something Vorkath could not do. For the first time in his life, Vorkath felt something strange in his chest. It took him a long moment to recognize it. It was doubt. Danny woke up 3 days later. The doctors said he should have been unconscious for weeks. They did not understand how human bodies worked. They did not know about the healing that happened when someone refused to stay down. Lisa was there when he opened his eyes. "You won the first trial," she said. "You beat everyone, including Vorkath." Danny tried to sit up. His body protested, but he ignored it. "What is the second trial?" he asked. Lisa stared at him. "You need to rest. Your body almost died." "What is the second trial?" She sighed. She had known he would ask. "It is called the weight of worlds," she said. "Each competitor carries a burden until they cannot carry it anymore. The weight increases every minute." Danny nodded slowly. "When does it start?" Danny stood on a metal platform in the center of the arena. 3 million spectators filled the stands. They were quiet now. The laughter from the first day was gone. Everyone wanted to see what the human would do next. The Grand Arbiter floated above the competitors. "This trial measures not just the strength of your body," the Arbiter announced. "It measures the strength of your spirit. The weight will increase until you can no longer stand. There is no shame in falling. There is only truth." Danny looked at the other competitors. There were still over 100 left. Most of them were massive creatures with thick bones and powerful muscles. The Zelkari had bodies dense as stone. The Thelians had 4 arms to support their weight. The Crassians had bones stronger than steel. Danny had none of these things. He had a body made of soft flesh and hollow bones. By every measure, he should be the first to fall. The trial began. At first, Danny felt nothing. Then the gravity field activated, and pressure began to push down on his shoulders. It was like someone had placed a bag of sand on his back. Then 2 bags, then 10. At 200% of his body weight, Danny's knees began to shake. At 300%, sweat poured down his face. At 400%, he could hear his bones creaking. Around the arena, competitors began to fall. The Zelkari, despite their incredible density, collapsed at 400%. Their stone-like bodies cracked under the pressure. Danny watched them fall. He felt the weight trying to crush him, and he thought about his grandmother. Maria Santos had come to America with nothing. She worked in fields picking fruit. She worked in factories sewing clothes. She raised 5 children in a 2-room apartment. She never complained. She never asked for help. She just kept working until her hands were rough as leather and her back was bent from years of labor. Danny remembered sitting with her when he was young. He asked her how she did it, how she kept going when things were so hard. She had smiled at him with her tired eyes and said, "You carry what you must carry. That is all." The weight reached 500%. Danny's spine compressed. He could feel his vertebrae grinding against each other. Blood vessels burst in his eyes, turning the whites red. He stayed standing. The Thelians fell at 600%. Their 4 arms could not help them anymore. They collapsed, and the weight fields released them. Vorkath was still standing. The Krassian warrior bore the weight with grim determination. His people were known for their endurance. He would not fall easily. But Danny saw something in Vorkath's eyes. The giant was straining. His confidence was cracking. At 700%, Danny's knees finally buckled. The crowd gasped. They thought he was going to fall. But Danny caught himself. With a grunt of effort, he straightened his legs and stood upright again. Lisa watched from the observation box. Tears were running down her face, though she did not notice them. "How?" Ambassador Zenthi whispered. "His body cannot take this. The readings show catastrophic stress on every system." "He is not using his body," Lisa said quietly. "He is using something else." At 800%, Danny stopped thinking about the weight. He stopped thinking about the pain. He started thinking about the message Lisa had shown him before the trials. It was a video from Earth. Millions of humans had recorded messages for him. Children, old people, soldiers, teachers, farmers, workers, all of them telling him the same thing. "Do not give up. We believe in you. Show them who we are." And at the end, there was a message from his mother, Nancy Cole. She had looked into the camera with those fierce eyes he knew so well. "You listen to me, Danny," she had said. "You are a Cole. Coles do not quit. Coles do not break. You stand up there and you show every alien in that galaxy what it means to be human, and do not you dare fall down." The weight reached 850%. Danny's vision went dark at the edges. He could barely see. He could barely think, but he could hear his mother's voice. "Do not you dare fall down." At 900%, Vorkath fell. The greatest warrior in the galaxy dropped to his knees. The weight field released him, and he collapsed forward onto his hands. For a long moment, he stayed there, gasping for breath. Then he looked up. Danny was still standing. The human was shaking so badly that it looked like he might vibrate apart. Blood was streaming from his nose and ears. His eyes were completely red. His legs were barely holding him. But he was standing. "No," Vorkath whispered. "This is not possible." The weight reached 950%. Danny could not feel his legs anymore. He could not feel anything. His entire body had gone numb. But somehow he stayed upright. At 1000%, the Grand Arbiter ended the trial. "The human's vital signs are critical," the Arbiter announced. "Continuing would cause permanent death. The trial is ended." The weight field released. Danny's legs gave out and he crashed to the platform. But it did not matter. The trial was over. He had won. The arena was silent. 3 million beings stared at the broken human lying on the platform. They did not cheer. They did not laugh. They did not know what to do. They had just witnessed something impossible. Medical teams rushed to Danny's side. They lifted him onto a stretcher and carried him away. As they passed Vorkath, Danny opened his blood-red eyes and looked at the Krassian. "Still standing," Danny whispered. Vorkath said nothing. He could not speak. He just watched as the human was carried away. In the medical bay, the doctors worked faster than before. They had learned from the first trial. They knew what to expect now. "His body is remarkable," Dr. Kellak said, studying the readings. "Not because it is strong. Because it refuses to accept its limits. The human brain suppresses pain signals that would incapacitate other species. It releases chemicals that allow continued function even when systems are failing. Lisa stood beside Danny's bed again. "You broke the record," she told him. "Not just for humans, for every species that has ever competed. No one has ever maintained that weight ratio with a body like yours." Danny's eyes fluttered open. Even now, even broken and bleeding, he managed to smile. "Coals do not quit," he said. The next morning, something had changed on Vexaris 7. When Danny walked through the corridors, aliens moved out of his way. They did not mock him. They did not laugh. Some of them even bowed their heads. He had earned their respect, not through strength, not through violence, through something they had never seen before. Through will. Vorkath found Danny on the observation deck that evening. The Crassian moved slowly, almost hesitantly. He stood beside the human and looked out at the moons. "I have conquered 6 star systems," Vorkath said. "I have killed warriors from 100 species. I have never met anyone who could do what you did today." Danny did not answer. He just waited. "What are you?" Vorkath asked. "What is a human?" Danny thought about it for a long moment. "We are the species that would not die," he said finally. "Everything in the universe tried to kill us. The cold, the heat, the predators, the diseases, our own weapons, and we survived it all. Not because we were the strongest, because we refused to let anything beat us." Vorkath was quiet for a long time. He lay in his quarters and stared at the ceiling. His body was wrapped in bandages that glowed with healing energy. The coalition doctors had done everything they could. His bones were mended, his organs were repaired, but he was still damaged, he was still weak, and tomorrow he would fight the most dangerous warrior in the galaxy. Lisa came to see him at midnight. She looked tired, worried. The diplomatic mask she always wore had slipped away. "I have been studying Vorkath's fights," she said. "All 47 of them. He has never lost. He has never even been hurt." "I know." "His bones are harder than anything we can make on Earth. His muscles can crush our vehicles. His reflexes are faster than any human can match." "I know." Lisa sat down heavily in a chair. "Then tell me how you plan to survive. Because I have watched those fights. Every opponent he faced was stronger than you, faster than you, more dangerous than you, and they all died." Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he sat up, ignoring the pain in his body. "Did you ever hear about David and Goliath?" he asked. "The old story? The small man killing the giant?" "Some people call it a story. Some call it history." Danny began unwrapping the bandages from his hands. "The point is not whether it really happened. The point is what it teaches. And what does it teach? That the strongest does not always win. That sometimes the universe helps those who refuse to accept the odds." He flexed his fingers. The skin was scarred. The knuckles were rough from years of hard work. "Vorkath has never fought anyone like me," Danny continued. "Not because I am stronger, because I am unpredictable. He knows how to fight warriors. He does not know how to fight a construction worker from Ohio." The challenge came the next morning. Vorkath entered Danny's quarters without warning. His massive body filled the doorway. Behind him, coalition officials floated with recording devices. "Human," Vorkath said. "I challenge you for leadership of the Proving Grounds, single combat, no weapons, no enhancements, just flesh against flesh." Danny stood slowly. His body protested every movement. "I accept." The officials looked at each other nervously. One of them stepped forward. "You understand that you can decline?" "Your performance in the trials has already proven." "I accept," Danny said again. Vorkath studied him with cold eyes. "You cannot defeat me. My bones could break your entire skeleton with one grip. I have trained in combat since before your species had fire. You have no chance." "Maybe not," Danny said, "but I will fight anyway." "Why? Pride? Stupidity?" Danny met the giant's gaze without flinching. "Because every human child is watching, because they need to see that we do not run from giants." He stepped closer to Vorkath. "And because you need to learn something important." "What could a human teach me?" "That strength is not everything." The combat was scheduled for dawn. That night, Lisa found Danny in the training facility. He was moving through slow, careful motions. It did not look like fighting. It looked like a dance. "What are you doing?" she asked. "Remembering." "Remembering what?" Danny shifted his weight from one foot to the other. His movements were smooth and balanced. "My Uncle Tony was a Marine. When he came home from the war, he taught self-defense at the community center. Free classes for anyone who wanted to learn." He turned slowly, his arms moving in gentle circles. "He used to say that fighting was not about strength. It was about understanding. Understanding how bodies work. Understanding where they are weak. Understanding how to use your enemy's power against him." Danny stopped moving and looked at Lisa. "The bigger they are," my uncle said, "the harder they fall. You just have to know where to push." "Vorkath is not some fighter from Earth," Lisa said. "He has been trained by the best warriors in the galaxy. So was Goliath." Danny walked to the window and looked out at the dark sky. "I am not going to beat him by being stronger, Ambassador. That is impossible. I am going to beat him by being human." "What does that mean?" Danny smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was something fierce behind it. "Humans do not fight fair. We never have. When we were weak little creatures on the plains of Africa, we did not try to match the lion's claw for claw. We used rocks. We used fire. We used our minds." He turned back to face her. "Vorkath expects me to fight like a warrior. He expects me to try matching his strength. He expects me to break myself against him like every other opponent." "And what will you do instead?" Danny's smile grew wider. "Something he has never seen before." Dawn came too quickly. Danny walked into the arena wearing simple training clothes. The bandages were gone. The healing was done. He looked small and soft and fragile. Vorkath entered from the other side. Without his armor, he was even more terrifying. 12 feet of gray muscle and titanium bone. His body was a weapon built by 100 generations of selective breeding. 3 million spectators held their breath. The Grand Arbiter floated between them. This combat ends when one fighter yields, loses consciousness, or cannot continue. Death is permitted but not required. The winner will be champion of the proving grounds. The ancient being rose higher. "Begin." Vorkath moved fast, too fast for something so big. He crossed the distance between them in 2 steps and swung his massive fist at Danny's head. Danny was not there. He had moved at the last moment, sliding to the side so smoothly that it looked effortless. Vorkath's fist hit the ground where Danny had been standing and left a crater 3 feet deep. The crowd gasped. Vorkath swung again, a horizontal sweep that would have torn Danny in half. Again, Danny moved just enough to avoid it. The giant's arm passed inches from his face. "Fight me!" Vorkath roared. "Stand and face me like a warrior!" "I am fighting," Danny said calmly. Again and again, Vorkath attacked. His fists moved like hammers. His feet shook the ground. Any single blow would have killed Danny instantly. None of them landed. Danny moved like water. He flowed around the attacks without ever fully engaging. He did not throw punches. He did not kick. He just kept moving, always one step ahead. In the observation box, Ambassador Zenthi leaned forward. "What is he doing? He is not even attacking." Lisa watched with growing understanding. "He is waiting." For what? For Vorkath to make a mistake. The combat continued for almost an hour. Vorkath never slowed down. Crashian endurance was legendary. But something else was changing. His attacks were becoming less precise. His timing was slightly off. He was becoming frustrated. "Fight me!" Vorkath bellowed. "Stop running and fight!" Danny stopped moving. For the first time since the combat began, he stood still. He looked up at the massive warrior who was breathing hard with anger. "You want to know the difference between us?" Danny asked. His voice was steady. His breathing was calm. "You spent your whole life learning how to destroy things. I spent mine learning how to survive them." Vorkath's eyes went wide with rage. He charged. This time, Danny did not run. This time, he stepped forward, into the attack. Vorkath rose slowly. His massive body was shaking, but not from exhaustion. He was shaking with confusion. In 47 fights, no opponent had ever made him stumble. No opponent had ever let him recover. "Why?" the giant demanded. "You had an advantage. Why did you not press it?" Danny stood with his hands at his sides. He was not in a fighting stance. He was completely open, completely vulnerable. "Because that is not why I am here." The arena was silent. 3 million beings watched without breathing. Across the galaxy, trillions more stared at their screens. "I did not come to these games to kill you," Danny said. "I did not come to prove that humans are the strongest species. We are not. We know we are not." He looked up at the cameras floating above them. "I came to prove something else." "What?" Vorkath growled. "That strength is not about what you can destroy. It is about what you can endure, what you can protect, what you refuse to let break you." Danny stepped forward. He walked toward the warrior who could kill him with one hand. He walked without fear, without defense. "Your people conquered 6 star systems," he said. "You have killed 47 opponents, and what do you have to show for it? Fear, respect built on terror." He stopped an arm's length from Vorkath. "My people almost destroyed ourselves a dozen times. We faced extinction from ice ages, from plagues. From nuclear weapons we built with our own hands, and we are still here, not because we are the strongest, because we help each other survive." Vorkath stared down at him. His fists were still raised. One blow would end everything. "You could kill me right now," Danny said. "You are faster, stronger, more experienced. One hit would end this." "Yes, but you will not." Vorkath's eyes narrowed. "You do not know that." Danny smiled. It was a gentle smile, a tired smile. "I do know that, because for the first time in your life, you are not fighting an enemy. You are looking in a mirror." He gestured at his own beaten body. "Everything your people value, strength, endurance, the refusal to yield, you are seeing it in a species you thought was beneath you, and it is making you question everything." The arena remained absolutely silent. Vorkath the Unbroken looked at his own hands. These hands had crushed skulls. These hands had bent starship hulls. These hands had ended 47 lives. He looked at the small human standing before him, a creature made of soft flesh and hollow bones, a creature that had survived trials designed to break the strongest beings in the galaxy, a creature that had faced him without weapons or armor or fear. And slowly, impossibly, Vorkath lowered his fists. "I yield." The words were quiet, but the arena's systems carried them to every ear. 3 million beings heard them. Trillions more heard them across the galaxy. The greatest warrior in the universe had surrendered to a human who never threw a single punch. "Not because you defeated me in combat," Vorkath continued. His voice was growing stronger now, steadier. "But because you have shown me that my people's understanding of strength is incomplete." He did something then that no Crasian had done in recorded history. He knelt. His massive body went down on one knee. His head bowed before the human who barely reached his chest. "Teach us," Vorkath said. "Teach my people what you have shown me today." The crowd finally reacted, but it was not cheering. It was not celebration. It was something deeper, something like wonder. Danny reached out and placed his hand on Vorkath's shoulder. "Stand up," he said gently. "We do not kneel to each other. That is the first lesson." Vorkath rose, and when he did, something had changed in his eyes. The cold pride of a conqueror was gone. In its place was something warmer, something that looked almost like hope. The Grand Arbiter descended between them. "The human is victorious," the ancient being announced. "But more importantly, the proving grounds have served their true purpose for the first time in 3,000 years. "What purpose is that?" Lisa called from the observation box. "To prove that the evolution of the spirit matters more than the evolution of the body. That the measure of a species is not what they can destroy, but what they choose to build." The Arbiter turned to address the crowd. "Let it be recorded. Humanity is welcomed into the Galactic Coalition, not as conquerors, not as conquered, but as teachers. May we all learn what this human has shown us today." The Colosseum erupted, but the sound was not the bloodthirsty roar that usually followed combat. It was something else, something that sounded like the beginning of change. 1 year later, the first human embassy opened on Crassia. Danny Cole did not become an ambassador or a general or a celebrity. He went home to Ohio. He returned to his construction job. He built houses and roads and bridges, just like his grandfather. But every month, a message arrived from across the galaxy. Vorkath had started a new movement among his people. He taught them that strength was not just about crushing enemies. It was about building things, protecting things, enduring things. "You change my world, small human," Vorkath said in his most recent message. "Not through force, through something stronger." Danny watched the message while eating dinner with his mother. Nancy Cole sat across from him, the same fierce eyes that had told him not to fall down. "What did you really teach them?" she asked. Danny thought about it for a long moment. He thought about his father, who worked with a broken back, his grandmother, who carried impossible burdens, his sister, who fought cancer without complaint, his uncle, who taught children to defend themselves. "I taught them that the strongest person in any room is not the one who can break things," he said finally. "It is the one who refuses to break." His mother smiled and passed him another serving of mashed potatoes. "I could have told them that," she said. And across the galaxy, species that had fought for millennia began to learn what one small, stubborn human had always known. True strength has nothing to do with size or power or violence. It is about getting up one more time than you fall down. Always one more time, no matter what. The alien races built statues of Danny Cole on a dozen worlds. They wrote songs about him in 100 languages. They told stories of the human who defeated the undefeated without throwing a punch. But Danny never paid attention to any of it. He just went to work every morning, came home every evening, and lived his simple life. Because that was what humans did. They survived, they endured, they kept going. And sometimes, when the universe was watching, they showed everyone else how it was done. The end. His hands found nerve points that existed in every carbon-based creature. His body twisted, using Vorkath's momentum against him. He pushed, not hard, but precisely. And the greatest warrior in the galaxy stumbled, his legs buckled, his balance broke. The giant who had never fallen staggered sideways like a drunk. But Danny did not press the attack. Instead, he stepped back. Vorkath caught himself and spun around, murder in his eyes. But Danny was not coming for him. Danny was just standing there, waiting. "Get up," Danny said quietly. "We are not done yet. The final trial is single combat," he said at last. "I will be your opponent. I know. I could kill you with one blow." Danny turned to face the giant warrior. "Maybe," he said, "but you will have to work for it." Vorkath looked at the small human standing before him. For the first time, he did not see weakness. He saw something that frightened him more than any weapon. He saw someone who would never stop. "Tomorrow," Vorkath said, "we will see who is truly the strongest." Danny nodded. "Yes," he said, "we will." "Tomorrow." Danny swung his legs over the side of the bed. His muscles screamed. His bones ached. Every part of him begged for more rest. "Then I better start getting ready," he said. Lisa shook her head. She had never met anyone like Danny Cole. She suspected no one in the galaxy had. "The aliens have stopped laughing," she told him, "but they still do not understand. They think the first trial was luck. They think you will fail tomorrow." Danny stood up. He was unsteady, but he was standing. "Good," he said. "Let them think that. Let them all think that." He walked to the window and looked out at the alien sky. "Because tomorrow, I'm going to show them what humans are really made of." Ings were watching. Danny was the smallest creature on the field. He was the weakest. He was the softest. Every other competitor had some natural advantage. Armor, claws, extra limbs, poison. Danny had none of these things, but he had something else. Vorkath walked past him, close enough that Danny could feel the heat coming off the giant's body. "You will not last 1 hour," Vorkath said. "Your kind was not made for this." Danny looked up at him without fear. "My grandfather built bridges with his bare hands," Danny said. "My mother worked in a factory for 30 years without missing a single day. My sister fought cancer when she was 17 years old and never complained once." Vorkath frowned. He did not understand. "You think strength is about muscles and bones," Danny continued. "You think it is about how hard you can hit or how much you can lift. But you are wrong. Strength is about how much you can take and still keep going, and nobody takes more than humans." Vorkath laughed, but there was less certainty in it now. "We will see, little creature," he said. "We will see." The Grand Arbiter appeared above the arena. It was an ancient being made of pure light contained in crystal. It had watched these games for 3,000 years. "The first trial begins now," the Arbiter announced. "May you prove your worth." Danny took a deep breath and walked toward the starting line. Behind him, 3 million aliens waited for him to fail. Across the galaxy, trillions more expected to see a human break. They did not know Danny Cole. They did not know what humans were made of, but they were about to learn.